obviously 1 week to go in the campaign, and one of the focal points on this campaign that I never would have dreamed a year ago is a huge amount of anti-law enforcement sentiment coming out of Washington, which is just appalling. And it's appalling that people apparently think politically there's hay to be made and wait, you can win elections by running against law enforcement. There was a bill that passed the House of Representatives that sadly was voted on or voted favorably by every Democrat in the House, getting rid of what's called qualified immunity, which is a necessity for law enforcement as far back as the eye can see. And that's why we have 4 representatives of law enforcement here endorsing me and trying to further educate the public on what would happen if that bill would become law. We have already seen in the Midwest here, in Chicago, in Milwaukee, if you look at the homicide counts, what happens when government does not stand behind the local police. And it's no exaggeration to say, I believe hundreds of people have died because people have elected mayors in some of these big cities who are not favorable to the police. In any event, it has certainly become a major issue in this country on the national campaigns, and certainly a major issue in my campaign as we fight to keep qualified immunity. I want to point out that if you Google a variety of different posts, you can see that the whole premise for this attack, that we have racist law enforcement, is not true in this country. There are certainly many articles and studies done that will show when adjusting for violent crime, this so-called racist narrative disappears. But the deaths that have happened since our big city mayors have turned against their law enforcement are real. A lot of people have died, and that's one reason why it's so important that the voters get this right and vote pro-law enforcement next week. Now, I'd like to ask the law enforcement officials here to identify themselves.
Sheriff Mark Fadol from Green Lake County.
Sheriff Ryan Waldschmidt from Fond du Lac County.
Sheriff Joel Conrad, Martin County.
Sheriff Dale Schmidt, Dodge County.
Thank you. Would any of you like to say anything?
Sure.
Okay.
So as Fond du Lac County Sheriff, I just wanted to say that I've been impressed with Congressman Grothman and his willingness to learn and listen to law enforcement. I've gotten to know him over the last few years, and he's always been supportive of law enforcement. Law enforcement is a career field full of men and women who do the right thing for the right reason, and that narrative is sometimes getting lost this day and age. And in discussions with Congressman Grothman and his representation of law enforcement in Washington, D.C., and representing us here in Wisconsin, I thought it was important, and we thought it was important to show our support of him. And in fact, he's been willing, even at our sheriff's office here in Fond du Lac, to come not just listen to us and not just ask us questions, to educate himself before making decisions in Washington, but he actually wanted to jump into our shoes, so to speak, and participated in a training session on a virtual simulator we have here at our sheriff's office in Fond du Lac. And so I commend him for the time he takes to listen to us, to law enforcement, to sheriffs, and represent Wisconsin well. And that's why we're here again today, to support him and support a law enforcement friendly official who represents us well in Washington. Thank you.